Morning, everyone. We'll give it just another minute or so. See if we can get some more attendees. Okay, I think we'll go ahead and get started. Good morning. My name is Tim Freeman. I'm an associate architect with California Building Standards Commission. With me in the room this morning is Laura Mills, an AGPA with BSC, as well as Enrique Rodriguez in the back row, who is a associate construction analyst with BSC. As well, there are representatives from Division of the State Architects, who I would like to allow to introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Alicia Chavez, supervising architect with the sustainability unit here at DSA headquarters.
Hi, I'm Ida Brown, senior architect with the Division of State Architect here at headquarters, sustainability unit.
Additionally, we have other staff from BSC, DSA, and other state agencies who are participating through Zoom this morning. I'd like to welcome you to our third workshop of the CalGreen Carbon Reduction Collaborative, or CCRC. Today is September 10th, 2025, and today's meeting is scheduled from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. We'll break roughly around noon for lunch if the meeting takes longer than that. Today's meeting is available via Zoom and teleconference, as noted in the workshop notice and agenda. This meeting will also be live streamed on the CBSC YouTube channel. Please be aware the live stream has an approximate 45-second delay, and there is no method for offering verbal or written public comment. Closed captioning is available via Zoom's automated live transcriptions. To view closed captions in Zoom, click the CC Live Transcript button. Closed captioning will automatically appear if you're watching via YouTube. The meeting materials may be viewed on CBSC's website as listed in the agenda and public notice. And now, Ms. Laura Mills will read the Zoom and telephone instructions.
Good morning, everyone. To avoid feedback or other technical issues, please join the meeting through one device only. Comments will be taken from the public in Zoom with their hands raised, then from the public on the Zoom phone line. If you wish to make a comment on a specific agenda item, please listen for Tim or DSA to ask for any comments from the public. At this time, please virtually raise your hand using the raise hand icon in Zoom. You will be recognized by me in the order your hand was raised. At this time, please unmute yourself, and when you're done speaking, please lower your hand and mute yourself. Please ensure that you have a working microphone on or attached to your device prior to raising your hand to make a comment. We will continue through the queue until there are no raised hands remaining, then take comments from the public on the Zoom phone line. When asked, please unmute yourself. When you are done speaking, please remute yourself. When phone comments are complete, Tim will then proceed to the next agenda item. Please speak slowly and clearly so your comments can be transcribed by YouTube and Zoom. If you experience technical difficulties, please call our office, CBSC's office, at 916-263-0916. Thank you.
Does anybody have questions regarding the Zoom and telephone instructions?
No hands raised.
Okay, if there are no questions at this time, I will proceed to the agenda items. Agenda item 1 is our roles and responsibilities as state agencies. The goal of the CCRC work group is to garner participation from all interested parties and affected stakeholders in the rulemaking process, to inform participants of the roles and responsibilities of the agencies, stakeholders, and the public, and to get informed, balanced input on CalGreen proposals. BSC has the authority to write CalGreen regulations for the built environment for non-residential construction not regulated by other state agencies. BSC is a regulatory agency and not an advocacy group. As such, BSC is required to follow statutorily mandated procedures and propose regulations within our scope of authority and consistent with state law. BSC seeks to co-adopt regulations with partner agencies. Insofar as each entity has distinct regulatory responsibilities and authority, not all regulations may be co-adopted. Each entity will develop specific regulations based on executive action, legislative mandate, or a demonstrated need identified by BSC or proposed by others. BSC consults and may receive input from state agencies with subject matter experts in green building standards. BSC is required by building standards law and the Administrative Procedure Act to evaluate the estimated private sector cost impacts and estimated benefits of the proposed building standards, among other things required to be included in Form 399 that we will discuss a bit later. BSC is not an enforcement entity. Enforcement is delegated to the local enforcement agencies. At this time, I would like to invite Alicia Chavez to discuss DSA's roles and responsibilities.
Hello, everyone. DSA has the statutory responsibility and authority to write CalGreen regulations for the building environment for non-residential construction, including California public schools and community colleges. DSA is a rulemaking entity and enforcement entity for public schools and community colleges. DSA is required to follow statutorily mandated procedures and propose regulations within their scope of authority and consistent with state law. DSA develops regulations based on executive action, legislative mandate, or a demonstrated need identified by DSA or proposed by others consistent with statute regulating rulemaking. DSA consults and may receive input from state agencies with subject matter experts in green building standards. DSA is required by building standards law and the Administrative Procedure Act to evaluate the impact and cost of proposed building standards on, including but not limited to building, businesses, jobs, private persons, benefit to health, safety, and welfare, cost of compliance, estimated benefits, mandatory on housing, local agencies, or school districts.
With that, I'd like to move to agenda item number 2, CCRC code change proposals from BSC and DSA. Item 2A is a recap of workshop number 2. On July 10th, 2025, BSC, DSA, and HCD convened the second CCRC workshop of the current 2025 intervening code adoption cycle, attended by multiple state agencies and stakeholders. At the workshop, BSC and DSA presented possible CCRC proposals to be included in chapters 5, 8, and 5A of CalGreen. Several proposals were also presented by AIA California. The proposals presented included cleanup of items such as errors in worksheets and units of measurement, definitions added to the list in chapter 2, BCCA carbon limits for insulation, an increase of the 175% threshold of GWP values to bring CCRC closer to BCCA levels, carbon budget compliance path, and circular economy concepts and others. Given the constraints of AB 130 on the rulemaking process, several of the amendments that were proposed are now withdrawn from the intervening cycle, with the intent that they will be revisited in the next triennial code adoption cycle. At the end of the presentation, BSC will speak to targets for embodied carbon reduction provisions beyond the current intervening code adoption cycle. I would like to invite Ida Brown to speak regarding co-adopted proposals.
Okay, just gonna pull up the presentation. Great, hello again, I am Ida Brown, Senior Architect with the Division of the State Architect. I will be presenting the mandatory non-residential embodied carbon amendments proposed for the 2025 intervening code cycle, which are all necessary for clarity of existing regulations and do not materially alter the substance or intent of the existing regulations. The majority of these proposals were presented at our previous CCRC workshop in July. However, I will repeat the presentation for the benefit of those who were not in attendance. At the end of this presentation, I will also list the provisions from our July CCRC, which are being held for further study during future code cycles. First, we have the reorganization and consolidation of the embodied carbon provisions. For the purpose of clarifying that there are 3 options for compliance with CalGreen embodied carbon requirements, we propose to relocate the reuse of existing building section, which is currently section 5.105.2 to section 5.409, where the whole building life cycle assessment option and the product GWP prescriptive option are currently found. This will consolidate all 3 options under section 5.409 and eliminate the need for the duplicative scoping section 5.105.1. Scoping will be covered in full by 5.409.1. In addition, to clarify the purpose of section 5.409 and more accurately represent all sections within it, we propose to rename the section from life cycle assessment to embodied carbon reduction. And to further clarify that each measure listed under section 5.409 is one of 3 options for compliance, including an option for building reuse, a prescriptive option, and a performance option. We propose to rename and reorganize the options as follows. The first section, 5.409.2, is titled Reuse of Existing Building Option, in which we added the word option. And again, this is the section that was relocated from section 5.105 as the first option for compliance. The second section, 5.409.3, is titled Product GWP Prescriptive Option, in which we remove the word compliance and replace the word path with the word option. And the third, section 5.409.4, is titled Whole Building Life Cycle Assessment Performance Option, in which we added the words performance option and relocated the section from the beginning of section 5.409 to the end. All comments that have been received from stakeholders are strongly in favor of these amendments. I'll pause here for any comments regarding this proposal.
There are no, pardon me, there are no raised hands at this time.
Next is revisions to the scoping section 5.409.1, and for this, BSC and DSA will maintain their separately adopted scoping sections, identified by the banners. The BSC scoping section is listed first, so I will turn this over to BSC to describe their proposed updates.
The PSC updates to our scope include previously mandated adjustments of floor area requirements from 100,000 square feet to 50,000 square feet.
Okay.
This will also include deletion of language pertaining to this mandated adjustment.
And for the DSA scoping section, 2025 intervening proposed amendments include only updates to the reference section numbers for coordination with the embodied carbon provisions reorganization that was described previously. Additionally, the exception that was previously found in the scoping section 5.105.1 is relocated to 5.409.1 scoping section as it relates to the reuse of existing building section. This exception limits the reuse of existing building option to additions less than 2 times the area of the existing buildings. Okay, we will now continue to section 5.409.3, product GWP prescriptive option. DSA proposes to relocate the requirements in section 5.409.3.1 into the main section 5.409.3 to clarify that only the materials listed in table 5.409.3 are required to have an EPD and comply with maximum GWP values. Also, in section 5.409.3, DSA proposes the added exception for salvaged materials and products, which clarifies that they are not required to have a type 3 EPD and shall be considered to have a GWP of 0. This also clarifies that salvaged materials may be used in a project complying with the product GWP prescriptive option, which could otherwise be misunderstood as disallowed because an EPD would not be available for salvage material, even though the GWP would be well under the threshold for compliance. And to further clarify that salvage materials and products are what they are in relation to the proposed exception, DSA proposed to add the following definition for salvage materials and products, which is previously used building materials or products that require limited to no processing for installation and reuse. Please note that the proposed definition for salvage material and products is different from that which was presented at our July CCRC workshop. It has been revised based on comments received from stakeholders and with rationale that a similar definition was published by the EPA in development of the Seymour program. This proposed definition includes some, but not all of the language proposed by the stakeholders. And the specific language selected is for the purpose of providing a concise definition. Any comments on this item or the related definition of salvage materials?
Go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, thank you. This is Bob Raymer representing BOMA, CBPA, the Building Industry Association, and the Apartment Association. We support all of these changes being made for clarifications, and especially the reorganization. It makes it a much easier read. We like that, and it kind of sets the stage for what you're going to be looking at for the triennial. So we're in strong support. Thank you.
Thank you.
There are no other hands raised. Oh, wait, Webley raised her hand. Go ahead, Webley.
Hello, this is Webley Bowles, WIP Sustainability. That salvaged material and product doesn't define whether or not that product is being used in the same function or a different function than its original use. Is that intended to be able to use materials in multiple ways?
I don't think that is intended. But we will, thank you for your comment. We will definitely look at that.
And Dan Burgoyne. You're unmuted, but we can't hear you. You might need to pick your microphone, select your microphone on your computer. Make sure you have the right one selected.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, sorry about that. Yeah, I had a similar question to Webley, where it states required limited to no processing for installation, whether that means, you know, what does that mean exactly? Does that mean that it can't be like replaned down, or a material that's ripped to a different width for a different use? Does it need to be used in the same fashion as its original use? I'm just a little concerned about, because there's a lot of salvage materials out there. It could be like barnwood siding that's planed down and used for flooring, other things like that. Just wondering what the restrictions are on that.
Yeah, thank you for your comment. We'll take that into consideration for clarifications needed.
There are no other hands raised.
Next slide. Next, some minor updates have been made to the language of the existing exception for concrete to clarify that each concrete mix may be considered individually to meet the GWP limits of table 5.409.3 or as a weighted average of all mixes in a project. And on table 5.409.3, the table is showing a correction to the unit of measurement for flat glass, which should be in metric ton of carbon dioxide equivalent rather than a kilogram of carbon dioxide equivalent, for consistency with the Buy Clean California Act, which these values are based upon. And lastly, we're proposing to remove the note regarding sample ordinance for use by local agencies, as this note is not applicable. Any comments regarding table 5.409.3 or the product GWP prescriptive option proposals?
Seeing no hands at this time.
Okay, moving on to section 5.409.4, whole building life cycle assessment performance option. Only one minor revision is proposed for the 2025 intervening code cycle, which is to add the word geographic before the word location for clarity. The last items I will go over are the proposed revisions to the worksheets related to section 5.409. Worksheets 3, 4, 5, and 9 include updates that are reflective of the proposed updates we have previously reviewed. Worksheet 3 includes a revision to the section number and name for which the related reuse of existing building options section can be found. It also includes a correction to the last column of the table where SF per square foot is replaced with the percentage sign. Worksheet 4 also includes a revision to the section number and name for which the related whole building life cycle assessment performance option can be found, and adds the word geographic before the word location, as is proposed for the related code sections. Worksheet 5 is related to the product GWP prescriptive option. Specific updates include those to the reference section number and name, as well as language clarifications. And lastly, worksheet 9, proposed amendments include coordination of the referenced section numbers and names. All proposals for amendments to embodied carbon reduction sections and worksheets are necessary for clarity of existing regulations and do not materially alter the substance or intent of the existing regulations. And that is all I have for embodied carbon reduction 2025 intervening code cycle proposals. And before we open for comments, on the 2025 code proposals and note that the items listed here, which had been discussed during our July CCRC workshop, will be on hold for further study during future code cycles. These items include DSA scoping section amendments, including reduction of the building area threshold for compliance and the addition of the site concrete embodied carbon requirements, the reduction to GWP limits for the prescriptive compliance option, the addition of the embodied carbon budget method of compliance for the performance compliance option, the biogenic carbon exception and definition, and the salvage materials exception for the performance compliance option. Are there any comments?
No raised hands at this time.
Okay, I'm gonna turn this back to BSC to Tim to go over the voluntary measures.
Thank you, Ed. For agenda item 2C, the following proposals apply to appendix sections. Being voluntary non-residential regulations, these appendices are adopted by BSC alone and not DSA or other state agencies. I can just share my screen. We'll start with the worksheets which apply to appendix sections, again being voluntary and not mandatory. As such, they're not co-adopted with DSA. Each of these appendix sections and worksheets closely emulate the language and intent conveyed by DSA in the previously discussed sections.
May I make a suggestion? You turn off your paragraph markers.
Sure. Is that better?
The paragraph.
Oh,
There you go. Much nicer on the view screen.
if that's a little more clear for everybody.
Yes.
Worksheet 6 applies to section A 5.409.2, reuse of existing building. The proposed amendments to this worksheet are limited to titling of the worksheet, as well as a clarification on the area of aggregate addition being square foot. Worksheet 8 similarly is applied to section A 5.409.4, building life cycle assessments, and clarifies that this is the performance option, as well as providing a renumbering to align with the reorganization of sections previously mentioned. This worksheet also includes the addition of the word geographic in front of location for clarity. Worksheet 8 will apply to section A 5.409.3, product GWP prescriptive option. And again, similarly adjust the worksheet title to clarify that this is the prescriptive option, and adjust the language within the worksheet to correctly apply to the appendix for which it is to be used. Worksheet 9 applies to section 5.409.4 as well as section A 5.409.4 and was previously discussed by DSA. For the appendix sections, section A 5.105 is similarly stricken and reserved to be relocated as described in section 5.105. The definition for salvage material has also been added to section 8.5, A5.402 definitions with the same definition as described previously. Section A 5.409 embodied carbon reduction and A 5.409.1 scope are again reorganized and retitled to adjust to reflect this reorganization. Section A 5.409.2 reuse of existing building option is again renumbered for reorganization and adding the term option to existing building for clarity. Section A 5.49.3 product GWP prescriptive option with subsections and table A 5.409.3 is once again reworded to align with the reorganization of the sections. Table A 5.409.3 has been adjusted to correctly to fix the correct the error in flat glass unit of measurement from kilograms of CO2 equivalent per metric ton to metric ton of CO2 equivalent per metric ton. Section A 5.409.4 whole building life cycle assessment performance option is also renumbered to reflect the reorganization with performance option added to the title for clarity. That concludes the summary of BSC only adopted proposals. With that, I would like to invite BSC to speak about targets for embodied carbon.
Do you want to ask for comments?
Yes. Are there any questions or comments regarding BSC only proposals?
No hands raised.
Thank you, Laura.
Okay, the last item that we'd like to discuss is target setting for the development of CalGreen embodied carbon reduction provisions through future code cycles. These provisions are driven by stakeholders and legislature and are informed in large part by the California Air Resources Board, which has been required by Assembly Bills 2446 and 43 to develop a framework for measuring and reducing greenhouse gas emissions from building materials by 40% by 2035. Additional legislation in effect which drives building decarbonization includes, but is not limited to, Senate Bill 32, which sets an interim target of a 40% reduction in greenhouse gas emissions below 1990 levels by 2030. And Assembly Bill 1279, which establishes the long-term target to achieve an 85% reduction in net zero greenhouse gas emissions by 2045, with net negative emissions thereafter. Keeping this legislation in mind, we will be interested in stakeholder feedback to help inform our future code development. Questions for considerations may include: what are the targets for the lowering of GWP limits and how should that align with each code cycle and California statute and executive orders? How else should embodied carbon provisions align with California greenhouse gas emissions targets? And how will industries be best supported in the reduction of greenhouse gas emissions without creating economic hardship? I'll now open for any comments on this subject.
Not seeing any hands raised at this time.
Well, I will turn this back to BSC then, and comments can always be submitted separately following this meeting.
Thank you. I'd like to move to agenda item 3, related items not on the agenda. And I'd like to start this with, I see we have some attendees from HCD. I'd like to invite HCD to discuss the effect of recent legislation on its proposals they've had. No?
There we go. Go ahead, Mitchell.
Hey. This is Tyler Mayo, Title 24 Regulations Manager representing HCD. Others are in attendance. Sorry about that. But yeah, I can give a brief update. As I believe Tim or someone from BSC mentioned, that BSC does a good job capturing all the meetings on YouTube. So during the previous CCRC, we gave an update on our CCRC proposals, but I can recap what we discussed last meeting. We originally received a proposal to adopt the same measures that BSC adopted during the 2022 intervening code adoption cycle. However, given recent legislation, our petitioner withdrew their proposal, so that's currently tabled for the time being, but right now we do not have any proposals to share at this time. But thanks for the opportunity to speak. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Tyler. Are there any other items not on the agenda that anyone would like to discuss?
There are no hands raised.
Seeing none, I'll move to agenda item 4, action items and future meetings. Today's workshop is the 3rd CCRC workshop. With no further workshops planned, BSC and DSA will move forward with our respective amendments and begin the rulemaking process. Opportunities for further public input will be available during the Code Advisory Committee meetings, as well as the subsequent public comment periods. As for our internal deadlines, BSC needs to have submittals to DGS and other review processes before the December 1st submittal of documents. For this timeline, as well as that for other meetings, please visit our website at dgs.ca.gov/BSC. Does DFCA have any further comments?
Sure. If there are any further comments that stakeholders would like to send DSA on public schools and community colleges, they can also email us after this meeting at dsasustainability@dgs.ca.gov.
Okay, I would like to thank everybody who helped in BSC as well as DSA's efforts on this lift. And at this time, I will move to agenda item 5, which is to adjourn this meeting. Thank you.